Oh, Danny boy, the pipes are calling.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to our classical crossover interview series. Today, I'm really excited to have the lovely Grace Foley with us. Hi, Grace.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm good, Natasha. Thank you so much for having me on here. I'm so excited.
So fun to have you. You were so amazing at the concert we just did.
Oh, thank you.
Singing, that's your latest single, right? Everything I Do.
Yeah, it's my latest single. It's strange. It's my latest because it's the first one I recorded. I recorded it in December last year as a Christmas present for my mom and dad, and they heard it and they said you should release that. So it was recorded ages ago, and then we kind of fiddled around and made it even more special. And then yeah, it's the last one I released, and then I have one more release coming up this year then as well.
Oh, that's so awesome. Your mom and dad must love that when you do the musical gifts.
Yeah, they love that. My husband's always saying, he hears me singing all the time. He said, don't record a song for me as a present. Get me an actual present. I think a present for him would be if I stopped singing. No,
I
he
can feel
loves
you.
my singing, but he has it all day, every day.
I get you. So my sister's a singer too, but I sing all the time. And she was like, sometimes she prefers to listen to me on recording because she goes, there's volume control on that. In real life, there's not.
That's such a good point. If we could just...
Yeah.
I think my neighbors would agree as well with that. If they could just turn me down a little bit, yeah.
A little bit be helpful, right? It's that classical training. What can we do?
We can't help it.
Yeah. So I really, really appreciate it. I mean, I've seen you on social media, but I think I really felt like I got to know more about you through the Mary Jess podcast. She does an awesome job, and it was really great to hear you speak there.
Yeah, she's fantastic. Yeah, she got me opening up, certainly.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those who weren't lucky enough to see the podcast, definitely go watch it. It's very special. But let's just go back and see how you got started with music.
Mhm. Absolutely. I'm not from a musical family at all. I'm an only child. So this is where you insert the question, are you spoiled rotten? Every time I say that. I would say I'm very spoiled for affection. I don't think I was given everything I wanted, but I was very shy. Not around family, not around my parents or my grandparents. But then if they asked me to sing, everyone had to turn around, and then sometimes I also faced the back wall and then they had to face the other direction. But it's gas. I always wanted to sing, but for a long time I was never comfortable with people seeing me do it. So I don't know if that's an only child thing, or I think a lot of singers are a bit like that. I think maybe I always cared an awful lot about it. I think it was my dad that first heard me singing in the back of the car. My favorite place to sing was in the back of the car. I think we've all done it, where you're looking out the window and you're imagining you're in a music video and it's really dramatic. I think we've all done that. So I did that a lot. And then dad, one day I was singing Colors of the Wind from Pocahontas, and we came home and he said to mom, he said, I think herself can sing. I think she's a singer. And yeah, after a few family concerts, when people were allowed to face me, I eventually had singing lessons for about 6 months when I was 11, I think it was. And back then, I don't know what it was like for you growing up, but singing lessons were not a thing really, like they are now. Like there's lots of schools, and I give singing lessons myself, but back then it wasn't a thing. So we got this guy, and then he moved on. He was a singer for 6 months. And then when I was 14, I went to my singing teacher, Anya McGowan, and she was like a second mother to me. She was amazing. She was a contralto as well. So I think she always said us dark types need to stick together. So we had that. Yeah. So I always had her. I never felt like the strange voiced one when I was with her, because her voice was actually probably darker than mine. And then when I went to college, everyone was like, what are you? And they were fascinated. Like they said my laugh, even they were like, such a deep laugh. So that was kind of the start of my journey with singing lessons, we'll say.
So that's something I love contralto voices, but they are quite rare actually. So that was one of my questions for you is, I guess before you met this teacher, was there ever kind of like, what kind of voice is she trying to set you up a bit higher or anything? Or you always kind of knew it was comfortable low?
It's a good question, and it's a weird one, because I think there's a few stereotypes in music that, that singers aren't always nice to other singers, or that, low voice types are pushed up. I thankfully, but just both those topics haven't really massively affected me.
Right.
I've always thought, luckily in my experience, I've always had a lovely experience with other singers, and to this day still do. And maybe bar one teacher who didn't really understand my voice, people kind of got it from day one. And what Anya actually told me after years of lessons is when I came to her first, she said, how is she so developed in her low range for that age? Like, and my top wasn't really there. I was avoiding it because the first teacher I went to for those 6 months had said, stop singing Celine Dion. She's going to ruin voices. Stop singing all those pop songs. And he was like, just mind your voice. So of course I heard mind your voice, and I like stopped singing up high, and I had a lower voice anyway. I always struggled with the top notes. So my voice was actually very unbalanced when I was like, well, a lot of my singing career actually, because I had that real typical contralto hoot where it was very like, I really liked to darken it even further, which sounded great in my head. But not so great when you heard it out there. So yeah, the contralto thing is, some people will say there's no such thing. Like I did have a teacher say that to me. Now the same teacher, we didn't gel, but she said, like, you need to stop saying that. You need to stop putting yourself in a box. You're never going to get work. There's no such thing. You're a mezzo. And then other teachers in the same place were going, you're so not, your color is completely different. And it's quite a dangerous statement to make as well, because would say the likes of Catherine Jenkins, like where she's comfortable, I'm not at all. So our ranges mightn't be a million miles different, but I can't sit where she can sit for a while. So I consider her to be a lot different voice type to me, and mine's a lot darker, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I totally get it, because tessitura is a thing people really overlook. I feel like I've had that a lot where people go, oh, but you can hit this high C, and I'm like, but I can't stay there. So don't give me those keys. So that's great. So when you went to college then, was it like, I feel like that's a make it or break it point for a lot of singers, right? In that classical world, and you get thrown into there. So would people kind of try to push you to find your Fach and, do really opera or?
Yeah, it was unfortunately break it for me. I didn't sing after college for a while, and okay. And for years I was really conscious of that. I was really conscious of the fact that, like, oh God, am I the only one that this has happened to? And I'm not. It's amazing the amount of, when you open up, the amount of people that had the exact same experience as me. It wasn't like I went to college and I was like, oh God, this is a horrible environment. It was a lovely place and filled with lovely people. And as I said, I also had lovely experience with other singers, and I had lovely opportunities. But unfortunately, I just ended up in a situation that wasn't great. And I lost myself, I suppose. Even like my voice being questioned, where I was from was questioned. A lot of I'm a real home bird, and I was never really sure. I suppose I felt, because people often ask in Q&As and that kind of thing, like, when did you decide to be a classical singer? I never decided to be a classical singer. I went for singing lessons because I liked singing. I sang pop songs, and next thing was, and it's different these days, but the route was classical training. So I suppose the more pushed I felt into, especially the opera world, which I said day one in college, I don't want to be an opera singer. And I think everyone around me found it a little bit frustrating, because I had that voice that should lend itself. I was loud. I had an unusual voice type. I would have stood out in that genre. And I always said, I don't want to do it. And everyone, like even including my friends, they said, you'll change your mind. That's the life. That's the career. And I thought, I don't want, in my own heart the whole time, I was like, I don't want this. And I suppose the further along I went in my education, the more it became an issue, because I suppose the more I felt I was pushing against what I wanted to do, which was to be a performer, to be, like, I loved the Celtic tenors. I like those big crossover. That's what I wanted to do. And all the songs I loved were gone. I didn't get to sing anything I loved, bar singing in the church at the weekends, which I eventually had to give up because I was living in Dublin, which is a good bit away from here. But singing in the church I think that's how I lasted so long, because I was singing for a really good reason and I loved the songs. Once I left that, I felt like I lost all connection with singing, and I was just this kind of robotic being. I loved oratorio, I have to say I did, and it's to this day the one little niggle left me. I'm kind of going, I've got lots of books up there in the shelves, and there's opera ones kind of shoved into a box, but then there's these oratorio messiahs kind of calling at me every so often, and I take them out and I'm like, so they're the only thing that might draw me back in, and I would never write off my classical career as such, but I can't say I had a very, very good experience the vast majority of my time in college, but just one very negative one, and just the fact that I wasn't doing what I really I should have been doing eventually just affected my voice, and the voice just stopped working, and then it took years for that to recover. So that's my sad story.
No, I mean, I totally understand, because I think, when you're in college, you have to do your leader, you have to do your journey, like And it's very much, you're checking off these boxes that you have to do, but you're not necessarily emotionally connecting to a piece. And it's hard because then all you're thinking about is, oh my God, the high note is coming, or what, I have to hold out this note, and it's not that connection. So what kind of music, you mentioned pop songs, and I think in a way when we're young and we don't have all these ideas on us, we sometimes have a better idea of where we want to go. So like, what kind of music really moves you? What were some of the songs that you loved to perform that made you feel like, yes, this is what I want to do?
Yeah, I think it's like you said, the emotional connection is the most important thing. So I couldn't say, I really couldn't commit to one particular genre. I suppose the music that I found myself listening to, and I'm always harping on about it, and I think the people in the classical crossover world probably have no idea who these people are, but they're Irish singer-songwriters like Glenn Hansard, Falling Slowly, that song that he wrote, and Damien Rice. I've recorded songs by both Blur's Daughter is his song, and they're just the songs I found myself escaping into. So I think that's why they're so special to me. I escaped into that music. It was completely the opposite of what I was doing. Don't get me wrong, there was music, and even as you mentioned Leader, there's some incredible music that I actually fell in love with. There's Sea-Wreck, that beautiful song that I sang. I always loved that. And as I said, the oratorio. So there were some. I don't look back and say I didn't love some of them. But as you said, you start to become a little bit, you just, that there's that long note and hold that. And I suppose I found when I was singing songs that I connected with as a person, I wasn't thinking about holding long note. Like, that long note is for a reason. That short note is for a reason. That's exactly the same situation with classical singing. There is a reason there's a long note. I just didn't feel a connection to it. So I just thought 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Whereas if I'm singing Falling Slowly or Blur's Daughter, which has, long notes and short notes, I didn't think, oh God, I have to hold this. I thought like, oh my God, it's so emotional, and I want to sing it forever. So I suppose it's that kind of music. I've always loved singing Irish ballads. My return to singing was through songs that were all kind of linked to Kerry, which is where I'm from, County Kerry in Ireland. And there's some gorgeous songs. Again, they're ballads. Red is the Rose, Danny Boy, I released this year. You Raise Me Up. There's just The Contender. There's, like, I would record if I could afford it. Like, we all know how expensive it is. If I could record an Irish album again, I would do it. But I'd probably record albums all day if I could afford it. I think we're all the same that way.
Yeah, I was just looking at your Bandcamp page though, and it said, I think your song Together Apart, you recorded in your, was it your closet or your wardrobe?
My wardrobe, yeah, in between the jeans. I was just,
Sounds really good. So you've used that same Rode microphone, or do you use something else?
This is new, and this I'm still becoming, it's there, and it looks at me every day, and I feel really guilty that we don't have a closer relationship. It's great for these things. I'm just a bit daunted. The microphone, it's great, but I'm daunted by the fact that I don't know what to do with Audacity, which is what I'm supposed to be editing it with, and I really need, like, I've looked up videos and things, and I'm kind of going, but they're not for classical singing. And then I'm kind of going, that doesn't sound great. And then you add reverb, and it sounds like I'm in a tunnel. So this I didn't have then. I wish I had it then. I was sent a handheld recorder by Dave McCune, my friend, and a guy I've worked with several times from his studio. I said, I'd love to record this. I tried it on my phone. He said we could put tights that you wear over the top of it. And I was like, right, okay. But he said, look, I'm just going to send you a voice recorder. He said, get in somewhere where there's he said, you're going to hate the acoustic, no acoustic whatsoever. Get in there. I was inside the curtain here, and I thought that's not working. So I took it up to the wardrobe, and I was literally just in between things, and I had the thing, and I couldn't believe how clear it was. Horrible singing it, like horrible, because there's nothing. It's just singing into nothingness. But it sounded really good back. But now I have this. This is far more professional. This is instead of the wardrobe.
Okay. I feel like we're all in this boat where this hit. I mean, maybe we played around with some of it before, right? But like, I was like, oh, okay, so I'm going to spend the money. I'm going to get a good mic. So I got the Shure mic, which is supposed to be quite good.
Yes.
Couldn't get volume out of the thing, Grace. It was so, I ended up returning it for something cheaper for now. It was so frustrating. Like 3 weeks, I couldn't get noise.
Yeah, you're all excited about getting this thing, and then these several boxes landed, and I was like, oh, when is this going to come? Because I'm not going to get anything done until that's here. And then it arrived, and it sat there for 3 days. My husband was going, when are you going to open that? I said, no, I can't do that. And then it's been here, and like, I've played with it. But like you, I was going, I don't really know. Like, if somebody gave me 1 day's course, I'd probably be flying. But then you've got the whole situation with backing tracks, and you have to pay for somebody to like record you a backing track, but you're not with them. So unless you're in a band and they already know how you sing things, I'm just trying to figure out how to negotiate like what you're singing with, into this microphone, so.
I mean, I'm sure they'll develop a better app. I heard that there was one where the piano kind of follows you, but I've never used it, so
Oh,
it'd be
okay.
interesting to.
You let me know if you
Yeah.
find that.
So do you have like a local pianist that's helping you now, or?
Like, there is a studio here that I've recorded in a few times, but I suppose everything's been kind of shut down as well. So that's the other thing. And he would rather have, like, he's the kind of guy that if, like, he can play anything, but he'd like you to be in there with him. He doesn't like read sheet music, so he just plays really quickly. Whereas he said if you get a guy and get him to come in with sheet music, and he said just record a number of things, but I'm just like, it's just the budget of trying to do that. And I thought this was going to save me money, but I may as well just go in there, because I don't think that's going to save me any money. I think I may as well just go into the studio with the pianist and just do it in there. Yeah. So I'm just a bit like up in the air at the moment, but I'm sure I'm going to figure that out as to how. Because as people, I've gotten contacts of people that do record, they have their own studios, they can record a track for you. But then I'm so afraid at the moment to say, how much is that going to cost? And then they'll tell me and I'm going, So yeah, I just never thought about the actual backing track side of recording.
Yeah, I'm really lucky actually. Maybe I'll send you his info. I have a good friend from college that's done a couple custom tracks, and
cool.
He's done pretty well with that. So kind of knows how I sing already. But
right.
Yeah, it can be a tough road. How about with videos? Are you just kind of using your phone, or?
Yeah, I suppose the things I've put out so far are just the videos I've professionally done this year. I'm still, I need to start doing something with my own videos. I suppose because I haven't created the tracks yet here. Like, as I said, the ones that have been released, like Together Apart, it's just lots of photographs that I ask people to send me about their experience of lockdown. And if I was doing that now, I probably would do like a little video on my phone and have me singing part of it, but I didn't know what I was doing. I still don't really know what I was doing, but I don't know. I'll probably learn. But I haven't done any videos from here. Emer Barry is a good friend of mine, and she's fantastic at that. And she was saying, you can get stock footage and all that. So I need to look into that side of things. I'm blessed that next week I'm actually going to studio in Dublin to record 2 of my own songs, because I got funding from the Arts Council, which is unheard of during lockdown, which is very exciting, and that will partly fund the videos for those as well. So I'm still sneakily avoiding making my own videos and songs, but I'm hoping this will come into effect if I need to maybe fix something from here or something, so.
Well, you just did the videos for Everything I Do, and then also your Danny Boy video was very beautiful. So do you have like a team that does them with you regularly, or is it 1 or 2 people?
It's one guy. He's from Nothing to Fancy Productions, Kieran. He is amazing. When I made my album Unleashed back in 2018, I was looking at lots of different people online. I'd never made a music video before. I was very excited about it, but I had not a clue about it. And some people had recommended people, but they were coming from the UK. Again, quite expensive, and then they were kind of trying to rent lighting and all that. And, I was just like, well. So I found him, and I thought he'd done incredible work, and he'd done a lot of work with this quite a well-known Irish singer called Tommy Fleming. So he seemed to be like, none of the people I knew had heard of him, but he had a lot of good connections. So I said, I'm going to check this guy out, and we spoke on the phone for an hour at the first time we spoke. I said, this is good. And he's just so lovely. He's quite young. He's a lot younger than I am. And he's lovely. And he was coming to studio to film a promotional video for that album. So I'd never met him. And one of my producers is a real character. And I think we just had a lot on our plate that day about finishing up songs. And he said, is this guy coming in today? And I said, yeah. And he goes, is he tall? And I thought he was joking. And I was like, I don't know. I've never met him. He doesn't look tall in his picture. And he was like, yeah. And then I think he thought he was going to just be everywhere. And like, it's not the biggest studio. So like, he walked in the door, he's about 6'4". And I was like, oh my God. But he's very discreet. But I looked up and I was like, oh no, you're really tall. But he was great. And we just bonded, and he did some of the videoing, the filming in Killarney as well. And he actually stayed with us. I was like, you can stay with us if you want. And he's just this really relaxed character. We became really good friends. And like, bar one video that I did for a charity, which another lovely guy called James Maher from Tralee, he did that one for the Simon communities last year. He did that one, which was beautiful as well. But bar that, I can't imagine doing a video with someone other than him, because we've great fun. But then when it comes down to it, we're both like that. Like, we both need to have the fun, but then we both need to take it really seriously when it comes down to it. So I'm completely relaxed with him, which I think is so important with videos, because I think if you're feeling self-conscious, I just think it's really hard to not look like you hate this process, whereas I think you're supposed to look like you're enjoying it, which I do with him. So yeah, I'm going to stick with him for now anyway. I think we've got a good relationship.
That's great. great. And then you also did a live concert that was streamed to your town, right? So did he do that filming for you, or?
No, and it's actually, no, I can't say I regret it because there was no choice at the time, but that actually wasn't filmed. That was done on a webcam.
Okay.
So there's no, like, I can't say I regret it because the church at the time, I approached them. I said I could do like a live on the parish page, or I could do it on the webcam. And they said the webcam is the way to go. So that I was really far away. Like I was up in the, like the very, very back of the cathedral. So like
Gotcha.
I wasn't that close. It wasn't a close up thing. But in some ways, I'm really glad that wasn't recorded because I think that was such a special evening. I'll never forget that. I sang in an empty cathedral and I've never felt so surrounded by people and by love and by the most incredible energy ever. Like the light was shining in through the stained glass windows. The little white feather showed up at my feet at a really poignant moment. I felt everyone needed it. The songs were songs of hope and healing. And when it finished, I kind of thought, oh God, I can't ever watch that. I don't even, like, there's no way of seeing that. That literally went out live. It's not on a Facebook Live. I can't watch it back. And I'm kind of glad I can't, because I think those special moments, sometimes if you watch them back, you'll nitpick and think, I wish I'd done whatever. I think it was meant to be the way it was. But would I absolutely love to do a video in the cathedral in Clarny? Yes, I would love to do like a big, like a holy night is my dream. I'm holding off on properly recording that until someday that I have the budget. It doesn't have to be big, but I want to be able to relax with it and do something really special with it. So hopefully someday I'll have a video at the cathedral.
I will look forward to that. I think it's one of my favorite songs of all time, even though Christmas song is just stunning.
So special.
So tell us a little bit about your album. So that was obviously after you came out of school. So how did you kind of pick the music for your first album? You said it was like based on your town and where you're from.
Yeah, it was during the dark years of no singing, and I did things really strangely, but looking back, like it made sense. But I wasn't singing, I couldn't sing at all. And I remember saying to my mother, I'm going to build a website. I'm going to get professional photographs taken and I'm going to record tracks. Now, imagine telling this to somebody who's watched you not be able to sing and they're kind of going, okay, like not singing at all. And she said, you want to maybe go for singing lessons first or to see how the singing works? And she said, rather than doing the other way around. And I said, I think if I see myself looking like a singer, I'll start to believe it. So it did actually at the time. Now it was a very ebb and flow kind of journey. It didn't just one day I woke up and I could sing, but at the time I took the photographs. Pavel Novak, a fantastic photographer here. I was so nervous. I made so many mistakes that day. I don't know what. I was like right hand, left hand, turned this way, that way. Like I was such a ditz that day because I was so nervous. Like never done anything like that before. But he was great. He got really great photographs out of it, which is great. I got the photographs taken. I got the website done, and that was in, I think it was late 2015. And then I started recording Home to Kerry in 2016. Now that seems like a lifetime ago. I can't believe that's not that long ago actually. And I chose songs that were all linked to Kerry because I'd always felt that, I suppose that, and it could have been just coming from me, but I certainly during my negative experience in college felt that I was expect to forget where I was from and just move past it. And I was so adamant that I'm like, I'll show you. So the photographs for that album are actually at Killarney train station because I loved coming back there so much. So that's why I chose that venue for the photography and the songs. Christy Hennessy, if any of you listening probably will never have heard of him. He's was a singer-songwriter from Kerry. And there's never been songs written with such heart. I genuinely think Christy Hennessy's music is just Roll Back the Clouds. If you haven't heard it, it's about the career of a performer. It is the most beautiful song. I would love to re-record that now, actually, because that one, like, I'm very proud of the person that recorded that album because it was a tough journey. I don't like listening to it now. I'm really honest about that. Like, everyone who hears it, they're like, it's lovely. And I kind of go, it reminds me of a tough time. But at the time I did the whole launch. I got like organized a lovely launch night and everything. It was great. But the way I chose the songs, Red as the Rose is one of my dad's favorite songs. It was always my party piece. Some of them I kind of chose because they were linked to Kerry. Like the Golden Jubilee is not my bag at all. Like I think I just wanted to have like a fun Kerry song. But yeah, the Christy Hennessy ones on that were kind of like a driving force. I was in the car one day with my husband and I said, I want to make this album. And I said, I'd love to have a song on it written by a Kerry person. And he said, what about Christy Hennessy? And of course, he has a really famous song called Don't Forget Your Shovel If You Want to Go to Work. So that's all I had in my head. And I said, that? And he said, not that song. He said, just like look him up. So I was looking up his songs. I skipped that one because I thought that won't be the one. And it's called Star, and it's also called Roll Back the Clouds. It's technically called Roll Back the Clouds. And I was in floods of tears in the car. And I said, this is it. I have to record this song. So like, that was the moment. That song and Falling Slowly, I would actually go so far as to say that they saved me. They made me want to sing those two songs. So that's a really long answer to your question of how did I choose the songs for my first album.
No, but I love that, because I think that there's some songs that, they fit a really specific point in your life, and then maybe a couple of years you go back to them and you go, this doesn't really fit me. But then there's some songs that it's just your whole life. Every time you hear them, it's just like you're giving something new. Yeah. So those will be some of your two.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So tell us, then you went on and you created Unleashed.
Yes, that was a completely different experience. That was so incredible. Like if I could, and there's no rose tinted glasses going on here. I loved that time so much. Niall O'Sullivan is an incredible trumpet player in Ireland. He's just an amazing work ethic as well. And I went to see him perform, and I spoke to him afterwards, and we got chatting. And I said, I kind of knew Niall before, and he said, what's your plan? Because he's really good with plans. And I said, I'd love to record maybe 3 or 4 tracks EP just to show who I am now. I said, I don't have anything to send to people to show where I'm at now. And just with a few coffees and a few phone calls and a few chats, he said he'd like to try producing something, but he suggested a co-production between him and a guy called Brian Connor, who was one of the most amazing characters and musical geniuses I've ever come across, but just such a strong character as well. So Niall booked everything. Niall was in charge of the project. That was part of his job as well. So I literally just I've changed since then a bit. I'd be more strong in my convictions, but I kind of walked in and I was like, who are all these people? And they were all like, we're going to have so-and-so playing this, we're going to have that. And I was like, all right. And they all came in, they're all hugging. And I was like, hi, Grace. And they were all like, okay. And I just sat on the couch and kind of watched it all happening. And you'd swear I had nothing to do with it. Like they were like, do you want to, they turn around and go, any opinion from the couch? And I kind of go, no, it sounds great. Yeah. But it was lovely because I suppose I was really minded, and maybe I needed that because it was just my, it was all very new to me as well, that kind of experience. But it was the musicians on that. Like I'd never experienced session musicians before, and they just came in, and it's just, there's no mistakes. Like I've never seen anything like that before. It was just, I suppose in college singers worked together and instrumentalists worked together, and we did some things together, but I never got to see these incredible people, like just, they're handed a sheet, they go, all right, yeah, grind, done. And it was
insane,
amazing. Right? I don't know, like I couldn't do that. And I'm just not the best sight singer in the world either. So if you handed me a sheet, it would take me a while to get there. But I was just blown away. And Brian, especially, and Niall was incredible, because Brian has this incredible way of changing songs that at first you're thinking, no, don't do that. One of the first things he said is no cover should ever have the same introduction as the original version of it. And I was like, oh God, I love the introduction for every song. Falling Slowly is very similar, actually. We kept that close enough because it was lovely. Actually, Brian, he said, Glenn Hansard got that one right. It was just so lovely. He said, that's just, I said, what about, we're not changing this one. He goes, yeah, but he got it really right. I'm not changing that. I thought that was amazing. When he suggested banjo for the Lana Del Rey video game song, I really genuinely thought he'd lost his mind. And even Niall was kind of going, what? And Niall was kind of I kind of looked at Niall every so often, and Niall would then try and translate my face to Brian. And then it turned out that I can't imagine it any other way now. So that was the creativity of that group. And even the musicians, singers, everyone involved was kind of, in a lovely way, giving it input. And it was, oh my God, like I, honest to God, could have stayed there for about 2 months, just sat in that studio with Dave McCune and that gang. And I am going there next week, and I will see them again. So it's very exciting. So yeah, I'm all excited.
So now these 2 songs you've written, are they like, I mean, I guess you can't tell us everything because you want to keep some secrets. But
I don't even know. Do I know?
You've written them the last couple months, so they're pretty.
Yeah. Again, typical, and I think a lot of singers can identify with this. Typical singer. I was like, I'm going to apply for this funding. I'm not going to get it. And then I got the email going, you've got some funding towards your songs, and I became paralyzed. I was like, because Together Apart, I was like, it just happened. It genuinely, I just sat at a piano and played. I'm not a good pianist, but played some chords and then recorded in the wardrobe, and it just kind of happened. And now suddenly, within 2020, which was a long time. I got it in April, I think it was. So I had a long time to do it, but suddenly I was like, oh my God, I can't. I sat at the piano and wrote some of the worst things known to man. And I thought, how am I going to do this? But thankfully, one of the ones that I'm going to be recording was one I kind of like started looking at. I had an idea for it last year. And then I thought, why don't I revisit that? I really loved that. And I suppose at the time I said, I don't have the budget to do anything with this. And then it turned out that's like, that song's the first song I fully wrote by myself. And I just never did anything with it last year. I took that back out. So one of them is, that one is, I would say, mental health related. Like the struggle with having, yeah, I can tell you this because I'm not telling the name, but it's kind of like what you show the world and what could be on the inside, and that kind of journey. I nearly said the name of it about 4 times there, so but I'm not even sure if the name's going to stick. But yeah, it's very much mental health, not in a too dark a way, I don't think, but it's kind of the struggle with the outside world versus the inside world, kind of. And then the other one is going to be released towards the later side of next year. That may give you a clue as to what type of song it is. Okay. It's not a Halloween song. Okay. Yeah, and it's more about a relationship. That one, different. Fine.
So how did you start songwriting? I know people are always like, oh, do you write your own music? And I'm like, no. So I'm so fascinated by people who do. So how did that process start?
Yeah, I was terrified at the thought of it. It was when I was recording Unleashed and I made a throwaway comment in the studio. I said, God, I'd love to write my own song someday. And then Dave McCune said, write it. We could even team up. So that was kind of the original plan. And one of the songs I'm recording, he helped me work out like backing for it, like how to create more of a song out of it. But it's gas, like the first song, and it did kind of come to me. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I actually left bed in the middle of the night and took out a voice recorder and I actually sang an idea, and that kind of that still is to this day pretty much exactly how the song sounds, just bar I added on like a middle 8. So I was like, songwriting is grand, it's fine, I'll be able to do this. And then, as I said, there was several attempts where I wrote lyrics and he wrote melodies. So there's skeletons of songs, but I always feel that they're more of an EP. There's a few of them there, but I think they go together. I don't think I do them as singles. I think they need to be recorded together, if that makes sense. And then a song I recorded last year, I wrote the lyrics for, and then some of the melody for Close the Door, which was for the Simon communities. And because there was homelessness was such a big topic all over the world, and especially in Ireland, of course, that's where I'm living. Last year, I suppose I felt motivated to do something. I said, like, wouldn't it be lovely to, and I was sitting down in bed at night and my husband said to me, he said, maybe just look up their website before you start throwing lyrics down on a page. And I said, yeah, I didn't, of course. I started just writing down ideas, and I wrote down, I couldn't stop writing down, close the door, close the door, close the door. And the chorus, I kept having that repeating, and I said, am I overdoing this line? But I said, no, I feel like I need to say it. And the next day I went onto their website and that was actually their slogan. And I didn't know that Close the Door was their slogan. Wow. So I wrote the lyrics, and then Dave wrote a melody to go with that. And then I wasn't keen on one part of it, so then I co-wrote some of the melody for the verse. I tried a chorus. It turned out his chorus was better, so we could, I don't even know who wrote what now at this stage, but and then it was the same guy, Brian Connor, and Dave, the same people I'm working with next week. We went into studio. Everybody involved in that project did it for free. Everybody, the studio, the producer Brian, the musicians, Simon Morgan, if you haven't heard of him, fantastic singer, gorgeous baritone here in Ireland, and he sang on it. He sang the kind of the final verse in it, and we came together in the chorus. It was just amazing. And yeah, I released it last year, and it's just, the video then was done, as I said, by James Maher in Tralee, and a gorgeous Irish actress called Laura Reedy. She was amazing in the video. Like, I saw her, I watched her, and that day was incredible because we went out early-ish in the day. We're trying to get the right light. It turned out we actually started off too early, so we had to wait around for a bit. And it was freezing. Like, it was a beautiful day, but it was freezing cold. So we were out all day, and she obviously had no makeup on. And anytime we asked her, did she want to warm up a bit more? She said, no, I want to look cold. And we were like, I had 2 coats on. I made a brief appearance in the video because because the other singer couldn't make the shoot, it would have looked weird if I was singing in it. So I just kind of make 2 brief appearances in it. But I was just basically there just to watch the whole process. And we were outside all day, bar lunch break. And even we had that. And we thought, even during the break, it took us so long to heat up. And I said, like, people who are homeless don't get to just stop being homeless in the middle of the day, get a coffee, get lunch. And then at the end of the day, we had to go down to like this tent that we'd set up that looked like that's where she was living. we actually ended up having to go through all this rough, and it got dark. We went a bit beyond time. It got dark, and then they had to turn on the light inside the tent. They actually needed that because it was so dark. And we all stood there at the end of the evening about to get back into our cars, and we all said, this has been an incredible day. We just imagine now if this was like we had to stay here. It was such a lonesome moment when we stood at that tent. And Laura said when she was in the tent, she said, God, that really got to me. She said, I get to leave. You know, it was an incredible experience. And we just got to see one day of being out in the cold. And we were, as I said, we were wrapped up. We got coffees, we got lunch, we got back into our cars, we put the heating on in the car, but we did all leave feeling a little like we learned a little bit of a lesson that day. So that turned out to be like a bit of a life experience, even more so than a song.
Yeah, completely. And I saw your post recently just reminding people that right now, especially, that's something we need to continue to donate to. And
absolutely, in any way you can. Yeah.
Yeah. And what's the organization's name again? Simon's?
The Simon Communities of Ireland. So there's different ones all over Ireland. There's one in Cork. We did, before I released the song last year, I'm in Munster, that province in the southwest of Ireland, and Cork is the nearest one to me. So I said I wanted to do a busking event, and then I realized the day before that you had to have a license for that, and I was like, oh no. And they were sending down t-shirts and buckets and everything. I'd like put 7 singers lined up, including George Murphy, who was this incredible well-known Irish singer, and the outlet centre in Clarny, which is an indoor enclosed space. They said we don't need a license. I contacted them, said grand, off you go. And it turned out that was way better because the weather wasn't great and people kind of came in, and in 1 hour 1 hour and 10 minutes we raised €900, and it was just better than the song ever did. I mean, the songs, you know what it's like with downloads, it's a weird one, but we were so proud. And people, like, it wasn't that there was that many people there. There was a lot. Town would have been busier, but people were putting in 50s and 20s. You know, they were it was just amazing. That was an incredible experience as well. So that was a big part of the end of last year, was like, and I had nothing to do with that charity before. My charity before that was Aware, which is to do with depression. That's always been my charity for concerts. So it's just, that's the great thing about singing as well, when you do get involved with charities. And I ended up singing for 2 other charities that were to do with homelessness, just coincidentally at the end of last year as well. So that became the topic. And I guess I did feel it got a little bit lost, as everything else has in COVID this year. You know, it got lost. So I think it's important just to remember that all these other things are still going on as well.
Absolutely. And, you know, like you said, it's just amazing. Music has that power to raise awareness and, you know, bring people together. So it's great that you're using your talents to be able to do something like that.
It's my pleasure.
So what are some of your goals beyond, obviously you have the 2 singles, music videos to follow. You're also on Patreon, right? So what can people kind of expect when they join your Patreon?
They get, like, so far they get behind the scenes. Now you can imagine behind the scenes during lockdown hasn't been, it's been it's been this. I guess you get to see my struggles being locked down, and I suppose that's not going to change an awful lot, but my Patreon family get to see everything first, and I am in studio next week, so they will be actual behind the scenes, please God, footage. Probably I don't really know how it's going to work, but like, there's going to be footage. I'm going to be leaving Kerry, which is actually a bit daunting because Dublin, where I'm going, isn't great in terms of COVID at the moment, so I'm a little bit tentative, but I'm staying in a hotel that's really taking it all very seriously. So in my own mind, I'm telling myself it's fine. The studio is great. They're taking it really seriously as well. So Patreon family get to see everything first, and that will probably come into its own. I would feel like my Patreon family are incredible. Like, they've seen the process. They've seen before Facebook Lives. They've seen all that, but now there's going to be songs coming up. They got to see Danny Boy, they got to see everything I do. They will get to see the Christmas one before everyone else. Depending what tier you're on, you'll get to see either a section or the whole lot. And then with these songs, I think this is where the Patreon is going to come into its own, because I will be sharing songs that have never been heard before, or like I might have questions, or like, what do you think about this bit, or like a little video from the studio that gives away a small bit of it, you know, like that. I'm quite excited about finally having Patreon footage that really is Patreon footage, you know, that no one else is going to get to see. Like, I'll probably put up a couple of photographs on social media, but anything giving away anything will only be for the Patreon family. So that'll be the case going forward. So that's what you're going to get. You kind of get monthly, you know, and if you're a higher tier, you get to see life outside music. That's mainly my dog Kerry and me cuddling her and walking around Clarny. It's basically what that is.
I'm a dog lover, so I'm here for that.
Great. I love dog lovers.
No, I do have a question for you. So it's something with singers. You mentioned the downloads. Are you still doing physical copies of your album that people can buy, or is it all online?
No, oh God, I just think the download is such a disaster. I don't know if you find this as well. I just think if you're not a pop singer, and I'm talking about like a really well-known pop singer,
Right.
you're not going to be, maybe for Andrea Bocelli, perhaps, I don't know, but I think even their fans, I think classical crossover fans, and actually even I like having a physical thing. I really do. I prefer having albums myself than downloading music. I think I'm very mixed up about the download situation. Spotify then of course is a whole other
Yeah.
issue. So it is a whole issue. I find that I think our genre will always appreciate a physical thing. I think it's your calling card. I think when it's in a physical form that it shows that this is the whole thing. So if you look at it in the physical form, you've got the photographs, you've got, you know, the names all lined up, you've got the color. I think everything you choose for the cover reflects what's going to be you're going to listen to. So like I think I'm almost tempted to go more the direction of physical copies than I am certainly. I'm not going to go away from that, and I am hoping soon enough to have another physical thing. Once I start next couple of months I'll sort it out. I'm hoping soon there's going to be more physical, because I think that the ones that are available to download, I feel like these singles are all over the place. They're just there, and there's one there, and people can't just take out a thing and say, like for Unleashed, if you want to listen to Grace Foley today, or if you want to listen to Natasha, you've got this thing, you can take it out and say like, I'm listening to these songs. Whereas if you want to go and trying to find all your, and if you're anything like me, you won't have them all organized into little folders of like, you know, yeah. So I think I want to have more. I think physical things are so important, and I think more so now than ever, because, you know, like what are we supposed to have a business with? We have to sell something as well, and downloads you're getting, like I don't feel like I've ever gotten any money from downloads really, you know, so I don't know what your experience is, but I don't think it's great.
Well, my sister and I used to sing when we were younger, and we just did an album, and I just like, I counted it off a loss. I was like, we're not going to make anything from this one. So, but so it's definitely, people go to your website, right? gracefoley.ie, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can get her physical albums. And I also think, like, because classical crossover, it's kind of a community, and again, like you said, maybe not for the top artists, or I just might buy, you know, but for indie artists, I think it's so important to really make sure that they're getting the money, and not like Spotify, you're not going to see the money, you know. So definitely, if you can get the physical copies from Grace,
yes, that would be great. We really appreciate that. Please come along.
Yeah. So thank you so much for talking to me today, Grace.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been my pleasure, and I've wanted to be in one of these for ages, so I'm absolutely thrilled. Thank you so much. And thank you for what you're doing for us, like that experience. I felt like I was in a concert last week before. Like it was just, and then when the video popped up, I was like, oh, and I felt like I was in the Eurovision because the little flag popped up next to my face, and I was really emotional when I saw the Irish flag. I was like, oh God, I just felt like we were all this community coming together, and people like yourself, what you're doing is just incredible for us artists. So I just, from the bottom of my heart, I genuinely mean that. Thank you so much for this opportunity, because we can be a little bit of a forgotten genre, and you're putting us out there in the most beautiful way possible. So just thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I think it's been so surprising that get artists like you and like G4, so cool to be able to do an online concert. I didn't know who would agree to it. So thank you so much for agreeing to that and to do these. I hope next time you have a release, you'll have to come back. We'll have to chat some more.
Absolutely. I will definitely do that.
All right, everyone, check her out. Thank you again, Grace, and enjoy the rest of it. I think we both have rainy days, so enjoy the rest of your rainy day.
You too.
Bye, Grace.
Bye.